Hey.
Still smelling crack on my clothes.
What's that? What
Uh,
song is that?
Little Jay-Z line.
Gotcha. I don't
Hey,
know Jay-Z like that.
yeah, grew up on it. Grew up on it. Welcome to That Part Podcast 305. We are in our series number 3. We are a seasonal podcast. We deal with politics and shit that matters to you, whether you like it or not. Thank you for everyone who tapped in. All those people that spammed. Thank you. Give us some moments of your time. You'll have no regrets. It's going to be a great show. Young Don, we recognize everybody who pops up in our chat. Say hi to you. What's up, Pooh? We see you. All right. And yeah, so let's get right to it. The beautiful lady that you're watching over there, she goes by the name of Janae Tate. She is the founder, CEO, president, superwoman of High Low News.
I'm all those things.
Well, the doll in the back just, gave me that whole vibe. You know what I'm saying? That's what's up. So you're a superwoman. She is the CEO, of course, of High Low News, our hyper-local news. If you like your news delivered with things that matter to you, brown and black community, entertainment with your news, with a little edge, some vibe, not your grandmama's news, then you have found a home with High Low News. Make sure you please download. Can you please register
Subscribe.
Subscribe. That's the word I was really looking for. Can you please subscribe to High Low News? It's very important that you do that. You would have no regrets. That's how I absorb my local news here in South Florida. Boom, you see it right there below. All right, you could also follow her, stalk her at Janae Tate. You know what I mean? All right, it's a little bit more ratchet on that side, you know what I'm saying? But it's fun.
Totally not. It's quiet over there.
But, if you want to just check out her and her ventures, hitting the road and traveling and experiencing life, you can catch her on her personal Instagram right there, man. But Janae Tate, honor and a pleasure showing up every week to dive into politics and things that concern us here on That Part Podcast. For those who don't know, my name is Papa Keith, formerly candidate for Commissioner seat number 3, City of Miramar.
You just gonna make this a joke, because that's what it is. Like,
it's a good joke, though. I mean, I'm happy I ran. It was fun. I learned more in the process of running and losing than I would have ever learned, winning. So I have no regrets.
A good sport about it.
Yeah, if you want to know more about that, look at our series 3, episode 1, where we give you all the tea on that. All right. Mm-hmm. But I also have this organization called Just Vote Period, where we connect with our younger folks between the ages of 18 to 45 and get them involved with democracy and get them all registered to vote and show them the importance of voting. I was a person who didn't care about voting, didn't think it mattered. 10 years ago, it changed my life, and I want to now take that energy and spirit and spread it to my people and get them involved. So, yeah, there you go. This is how serious I am about it.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I
got
love
some
it.
ice with it. Just vote, period. All right, I got to get you a iced out High Low News one.
Oh, would you?
Right?
I'll be like officially ghetto Miami at that point, like with my
it appeals
iced
to our
out.
audience. It appeals to our audience. You know what I mean?
Anything to get some views, right? No.
that's
I would
fine.
love that. I would feel so official and like G code, like.
That's what's up. We'll get there. On that note, we need your support here because we tired of this shit being a labor of love. We're going to continue to do it regardless because we find it that serious and that necessary. But gosh, we could use some of your help, whether it's sponsorship, whether it's donations, what have you. Please connect with Janae and I and find out how you could help us to continue to do this. In the meantime, we'll just, do what we got to do to make it happen for you. All right. And that's what's up with that. We'll give you more details on how you can help us throughout the show. But Janae, anything you want to say before we bring on our guests?
I mean, I just want to say how hype people were about this guest. So I'm really, really excited. You guys can read the headlines and who it is that we're going to be talking to. And it's going to be a really, really dope conversation. Just, thank you for the shout out for High Low News. Of course, that's a labor, a love for me and a service for the community that I love doing, but also love doing this podcast as well because it allows me this opportunity to talk to people like Billy Corben and have these type of things.
Ah.
So I'm really, really, really excited about it. Yeah, people were hitting me up. Like I got texts, I was seeing stuff on my post. They're like, "Oh shit, like y'all got this."
Right?
Like, oh.
Well, funny enough, before we bring him on, I met Billy I've known him and known of him, but I actually met him through Ferdinand, Armandi, cool dude. We used to work together at High Heart, and Billy used to come on his show and come into the station regular. And he would bring me key lime pie. Real cool dude, man. And I don't forget, I don't forget shit like that, man. So we've remained cool throughout. And then, me obviously getting more involved in politics and community, and him having a huge voice in the city of Miami on politics and community. We just stayed connected, man. So it's a pleasure to have him on. Without further ado, tonight's guest is no stranger to telling the raw, unfiltered stories that make headlines. Billy Corben is an Emmy, Peabody, and Edward R. Murrow award-winning documentary filmmaker and co-founder of the Miami Beach-based production company called Raconteur, if I said that right, Raconteur. He's the director behind some of the most iconic and jaw-dropping documentaries of our time, including Cocaine Cowboys, The Kings of Miami on Netflix, God Forbid, the sex scandal that brought down a dynasty, which became the most watched doc in Hulu history. 537 votes on HBO, Screwball, Dogfight, Square Grouper, and ESPN's 30 for 30 hits, The U Part 2, and Broke. South Florida native, Billy was born in Fort Myers, raised in Miami, and is a proud alum of both New World School of the Arts and the University of Miami. These days, he's also the unapologetic host of Because Miami podcast, produced by Dan Lebatard's Meadowlark Media, and he dives headfirst into the wild world of South Florida politics. Ladies and gentlemen, Billy Corben.
Hey!
Thank you for that. Papa Kid, we actually go back a little further than you're remembering, because I used to come in almost every Friday to the iHeart studios to join Paul and Young Ron. May he rest in power, Young Ron. Do you remember that? I used to come in early.
Yes. You're right. I think I was confusing. I kind of meshed them together because I even said like he used to come in for that show, but no, he used to come into Paul and Young's show, and then you were cool with Fernand. So
yes. I'd walk down the hall, and your studio was right between 105.9 and WIOD, and I would drop by. I would have some fun.
Absolutely, man. So long time, homie, man. Glad to have you on the show. Thank you for taking the time to do this, man.
Thanks for inviting me, and thank you for running. I mean, you have to respect anyone who with the guts to get into the arena like you did, and even though you didn't quite get across the finish line, that's only because you're not a narcissistic sociopath. So I think it says a lot about your character and personality that you again had the guts to throw your hat in, but did not have the mental disability to win. It's like a personality disorder that's necessary to really play in that sandbox. It's the short bus.
Well, I'm not giving up, Billy, so don't dog it too much. I want to be one of the good ones. Let's go.
You'll be in the minority. That is a fact. One of the good ones.
I'm accustomed to that. Let's go.
But here's the thing, though, and you have to keep this in mind, is that, and I've seen this happen in action with people who have run, who have won. You don't change the system changes you. And I've seen people who I thought were good people who I believed had ideals and backbone and stood for something. They win, they get that power, they go to that place, and there's a toxicity in a city hall or a government center that it's difficult to describe. It really rots your brain. It really goes to your head, and everybody tells you how smart you are, how pretty you are, how funny you are, and you get surrounded with yes men and yes women, and it really stunts your growth. It really you have a disconnect from reality. And what happens is that what you notice is this: there's a reason why they hold these public meetings at 9 a.m. on a Wednesday or a Thursday or a Tuesday. Okay. And there's a reason why they make it tough to kind of, how do you figure out how to speak or do public comment, or are they going to do it a little later? They're going to do presentations and proclamations. They start a half hour late, and they really limit your time. They'll drag your ass out by the cops if they don't like what you say or how long you go on for. And the reason why they do that is to discourage engagement, to discourage your being involved with your government, your community, to make it hard for you. Who the hell in Miami can go to a public meeting at 9 a.m. on a weekday? We got to be at one of our 3 jobs that we need just to make ends meet.
One of our 3 jobs.
Everybody's side hustles got side hustles these days. So,
well, to your point though, Billy, this is why I thought, or I believe that it would be a little bit different for me, is that most of that fame and popularity that they're looking for, I've already had it on my platform and have dealt with it gracefully through the last 30 something years. So
true.
I feel that in this position now, it's almost like a downgrade for me.
But here's the thing: you're also in kind of a people pleasing gig. Not that you give a shit about that, but it is. You're a personality. Right. You got to be out there. You got to be embraced by the public and your audience in order to keep doing what you're doing. But when you go into those places, so who comes to a public meeting? Who's there? The people there are paid to be there. They are millionaire and billionaire developers or sports team owners looking for sports welfare or corporate welfare. And then you have their lobbyists and lawyers. And what happens is those people, of course, are not only do they donate to the politicians and their PACs, but they're also the ones that are physically there in the building, in the meeting. So you become disconnected from the people. You become disconnected. Your constituents become not the people who voted for you, but the people who were there in the building looking at you during those meetings going, how are you going to vote on this? You're my boy. Like, how are we going to and it really, there's a crate. So should I call her out? I should probably call her out. So Audrey Edmondson, back when she was the chairwoman of the Miami-Dade County Commission. It's not that bad. Don't worry about it. Janae's out. Janae's sipping. She looks like Kermit over there. She's got her pinky up. She's sipping tea. So you sip it, I'll spill it. So Audrey was doing an interview. This is right around the time, I don't know if you remember, about Parcel B next to the Heat Arena, the FTX Arena, down there in downtown. Right. So back when we voted for this 30 plus years ago to vote for the county to use taxpayer money to build that arena for the Miami Heat and then pay them, the county then pays them to operate it and for their own profit. They promised that they were going to build a park between the arena and the bay in this cool little parcel of land called Parcel B. And what happened was 30 years later, as residents started moving into those condos that they called it LeBron economics, when he came in and downtown started popping and people started to finally move into those high-rise buildings that sat empty after the Great Recession. People started going, hey, where's that park we were promised? They went and found a chain link fence with a lock on it. And they said, hey, we were promised a park. This shit's a parking lot. And it turns out it's a parking lot that the Heat uses for a VIP valet parking for events. And now let's assume they made a mistake. They misread the lease. The contract said park. They said parking lot. It's an easy mistake to make. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt here, right? So now, can you imagine what would happen if you or I went to public property, put a fence around it, and put a padlock on it and said, I'm going to start selling parking in this publicly we'd be arrested probably. But what happened here? Nothing happened here. There's still not a park there. So at the time that this broke, Audrey Edmondson was the county. She was a county commissioner, but she was the chairwoman of the commission. And she was asked during a TV interview, chairwoman, what are your thoughts on Parcel B here? And she goes into this funny kind of 30-second monologue about, I'm a Miami girl. The Heat of the Miami team. I love the generosity of their players and their ownership. Go Heat. And the reporter goes, follow up, what about the park, the public park that your constituents and the county taxpayers were promised. And she pauses and she goes, you know what? I hadn't thought about it that way. That's a good question. And here's the interesting thing. She hadn't thought about it which way. She didn't think about her constituents, her community, the taxpayers. She thought first about the oligarch, about the owners of about the people who pay her, not her salary per se, but donate to her or whatever. Her mind, you're in that place, and that's who becomes your constituents, not the people, not the voters, not your constituents, but the millionaires and billionaires. That's just to me like, oh, I hadn't thought about it that way. That to me is such a telling. It's like she said the quiet part out loud.
It's a good one.
See, it wasn't that bad, Papa Key. It
wasn't that bad.
You were ass pucker over there. I saw you.
It wasn't, but to your point, is ironically, I just was having this conversation with someone right before our podcast. So it's interesting what you said about elected officials and who they're accountable to. And Billy, there's so much that we could get into with that. But what I want to do just to kick it off, a little bit, kick it off for our audience, if they are unfamiliar with you, like for me, I know Cocaine Cowboys, I know that you like those documentaries, but if they are unfamiliar with you, can you tell them about your background getting started in documentaries and how that came about? Because for a lot of people, that's how you were introduced on the national stage. So can we take them back a little bit before you started really digging in the ass of politicians? We knew you as the documentarian.
But let's leave Andrew Gillum out of this.
Oh my God! Wait. The views expressed by Billy Corben are of his own.
Is he here? Hang on, let me look on the floor. Andrew, honey, are you here? Andrew?
My God!
No, I don't see him down there. I don't see him down there. He's not here.
I like Andrew. I would still vote for Andrew. Laid out on the bathroom floor and all. I still like Andrew. I don't.
Me too. Like Everybody has their demons.
but you got
that's his personal life. That ain't got nothing to do with me.
But you got to tell the truth. You got to tell the truth about it. That's my beef with Andrew, because there is a part of me, yes, that agrees with Janae that even unconscious on the floor in a puddle of his own blood and mess and piss and whatever, that he would be a better governor than the guy we have now. So there's definitely a part of me that agrees with that. The other part of me is concerned about how he would have been compromised with his worst kept secret, and how he might have, I was a big supporter of his. I became a Democrat to support Andrew Gillum, and he would have been making moves and not vetoing shit and engaging and pushing legislation, and we would have been scratching our heads going, what is this man up to and why? And what we wouldn't have, because that's the thing, it is your personal life, Janae. I don't give a shit. I never trade in that kind of gossip and bullshit. You see my stuff. I don't do that unless it impacts your public service, unless you are compromised in a way that you are not able, that you are violating the public trust through a secret from your private life. And that is my concern there. There's a possibility, there's a world in which, an alternate universe in which Andrew Gillum gets elected. We help him do that, and he becomes the most corrupt governor in the history of Florida, and we can't figure out why. And it's basically because he's being extorted or blackmailed or compromised. So I'm just saying, like, you're right about it until it starts to poison his ability to represent the people he was elected by. But that's I was gonna say it's a conversation for another time, but we just had it. So anyway.
Or here's the tea: his wife knows and they don't care, and the story's out, and he doesn't become a corrupt governor. Like we will never know.
But that didn't happen. It didn't even happen after we knew about it. He had a moment where he could have been a hero to a community. No, I went to New World School of the Arts. You mentioned one of my classmates, underclassmen, but a dear friend of mine is Terrell Alvin McCraney, who is the Academy Award-winning co-screenwriter of the masterpiece Moonlight. And Terrell, I was for a while, I thought the only other, before the You and Cocaine Cowboys, I thought what would be on my tombstone is the only guy at New World that would drive Terrell home to Liberty City at night. That's what he told me. He's like, you're the only person who'll drive me home. Because he rode his bike from New World, from Wolfson campus in Miami-Dade to Liberty City. I'm like, throw your bike in the back of the car. Let's, and he's like, you're going to drive me to Liberty City? I said, yeah, you live by Northwestern. Anyway, the point is that Terrell told me that New World School of the Arts saved his life. That if he had to go on to his home school, Miami Northwestern, that one way or another, he feels that he would have been dead by now. and he would not have survived that experience as an out gay man in South Florida in the 90s. And I don't know about that experience, what that life is, but like that has always stayed with me. And to me, Andrew Gillum had an opportunity to be a hero and tell his truth and be a role model to people who need that kind of role model. And instead, I think he kept lying. I think he's still lying to himself, to others, maybe to his family. That's their business. He's a private citizen now. He's not in, a public official. But I lost a lot of respect for him after having, as many of us did, go way out on a limb to try to get him elected. And damn, did we come close. We came close.
Really close.
Yeah. I mean, until Vanessa Waterbyers is in the comments. She's actually has the blog, Blog in Black Miami. And she made a good point that people are extorting people in Congress and the SCOTUS as well, and probably the POTUS too. So it's kind of like, okay. Wait, we could get all into that. Tell us about
we're living a shit show. She's not wrong. But we're going back to 2018 now, and talking about this. So and we're talking about one specific race for Florida governor. But she's not wrong. I mean, I agree with everything that she said about what's going on in this country right now.
There's a point there, but I'm almost like, we'll never get into your. I want to come back to that because I'm like, I do want to give people like understand your background and your pedigree and the things that you've done in documentaries.
Yeah. As Papa Key said, I'm a Florida native and a lifelong Miamian, and there is one thread of the family. I'm probably like fourth generation Miamian. When I say one thread, I'm like, my dad was born in I'm trying to think of who was born where, but like we go back a little bit in Miami, and I go back forever in Miami. And so I met my producing partner, Alfred Spellman, in TV production class at Highland Oaks Middle School in Miami-Dade County Public Schools. And we had an amazing teacher, Sheila Spicer, who lived in Carroll City. It was the first time I went that's the first time I went to Carroll City for something other than a football game, was to go to Miss Spicer's house. And she put us together. We were, in TV production class. She identified a talent in us and literally handed us the keys to the studio and said, "I want you to produce the morning news for the middle school." That was 1990 or 91. And Alfred and I have been producing partners ever since, thanks to Miss Spicer.
Wow.
And shout out Sheila Spicer. I know she might be listening. She was. I think she listened to Papa Keith. I think we talked about this before with Miss Spicer. But anyway, Alfred and I formed our first production company when we were sophomores in high school. He was at NMB, Go Chargers. I was at New World School of the Arts, Go Fighting Pigeons. And we, and with our third partner, David Sipkin, who I've known literally since nursery school, we started our first company and then kept doing it. I went on to UM, and we heard about this crazy story out of the University of Florida where an exotic dancer claimed that she had been raped by some fraternity guys at a Big Brother, Little Brother pledge event at the Delta Chi House at the University of Florida in Gainesville, and that the whole night's events had been caught on videotape. And the videotape became a part of the public record as a result of Florida sunshine laws, because the men were not prosecuted or charged with sexual battery, but the woman was charged with filing a false police report and lying about it. And that was a misdemeanor case, and the videotape became the evidence in that case. And it became known in Gainesville as the quote unquote rape tape. And everybody got their copy of it. They threw keggers and people watched it. And what was extraordinary about it is that reasonable, educated people with similar backgrounds and life experience would watch this videotape and disagree about whether or not they were witnessing a consensual sex act or a rape. And we thought that was really compelling. And we took a leave of absence from college. We made a documentary about it when we were 21 years old. And 1 year after we decided to make it, we were premiering it at the Sundance Film Festival, which wow, even now is like the preeminent American independent film festival. We were the youngest filmmakers in the history of the festival at that time, the only ones from Miami ever at that time. And that was the beginning of our documentary filmmaking career by accident, really. Wow. And the next documentary, we decided, by the way, at the end of It was the first movie to sell out at Sundance. It got huge attention. It was called Raw Deal, A Question of Consent. It was on the front page. This is 2001, on the front page of the New York Post. This little documentary from this film festival out in Park City, Utah is on the front page of the New York Post. And so everybody asked us, we do like 60 interviews in 5 or 6 days with media from all over the world. And the last question for everybody was, well, now that you've made it, right? You're like, it's Sundance and you're hot shit. You're going to move to New York or LA. And as obvious as it was to them that we would move to New York or LA, it was just as obvious to us that we were going to go back home to Miami. Well, I mean, that's why they call it home. It's where you go when you're done with other shit, right? So we were going to go back home. But then we didn't want to be like 3 more schmucks peddling our wares in New York or LA like everybody else. We wanted to be like the way Spike Lee is New York, the way, Richard Linklater is, Austin. The way, Barry Levinson or David Simon or Baltimore. Like, we wanted to be like so if you didn't know Billy or Alfred, at least you go, oh, those Miami guys, the Miami filmmakers. So we wanted to tell a Miami story. And so we decided to make Cocaine Cowboys as our kind of Miami calling card, as the Miami filmmakers and storytellers. And the rest is kind of history. We roll into the ESPN 30 for 30s, the U Part 2 broke. And we wind up meeting a lot of extraordinary people. And, Cocaine Cowboys really blew up in the bootleg market at the Carroll City Flea Market is really how that started to happen.
That's how I saw it, Billy.
Yeah,
sorry.
Listen, it's all right. Let me tell you a funny story. So it was the DVD-R boom. It was the era of the guys in the strip club men's room or the Walmart parking lots with the big books, or the spindles of the discs, for anybody who remembers that. And these guys at the Carroll Mart, they told us they lost count 10,000 copies of our movie they sold before the shit came out, before it was ever released commercially. Wow. So Mark Cuban, his company Magnolia, distribution company, they're the ones who picked up Cocaine Cowboys because nobody got it. We premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival. Everybody's like, what is this piece of shit? But Tom Quinn at Magnolia was like, they're on to something. Like, this is the future of, we call our filmmaking pop docs. So we're like, they're like, maybe this is going to be a thing. So they pick it up, and Mark Cuban told me this story, and I asked him to repeat it on the Paul and Young Ron show once. He said one day he's on the team plane with the Dallas Mavs, flying to or from a game he didn't remember, and he's coming from the back of the plane and walking up. And this is late zeros, right? Mid to late zeros. So a bunch of the players had, remember those like kind of folding DVD players, you'd fold it up and there'd be a screen on top and like the flip phone, but for a DVD player. So he sees one player after another watching what looks like Cocaine Cowboys. So each of them have their own discs. So there's no streaming. And he's looking. He finally stops one of the players, and he says he wouldn't name names. So he stops one of the players. He goes, "Hey, what are you watching? Is that Cocaine Cowboys?" You're like, "Yeah, it's Cocaine Cowboys." He goes, "Oh, that's one of ours. Magnolia is distributing that." And the player kind of sheepishly looks at him, and goes, "Sorry, boss, I got it on bootleg." And so everybody was watching the bootlegs on the Dallas Mavs play. So you're not the only one, Janae. You're in good company. Janet Jackson hit me up. She saw it on Jermaine Dupri. They were dating at the time. You remember?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so you're not going to believe this shit. This is crazy. So we get a call from our then agent who says, "Hey," it's like 2007, I think. And they're like, "Hey, what are you guys doing tomorrow?" We're like, "We're going to be at the office, in Miami Beach." They're like, "Well, Janet Jackson would like you to come to her house. She's recording an album. She's renting a mansion on Lagos, where Sal Magluta was actually captured in Miami Beach. And she wants you to come by and talk about Cocaine Cowboys." And we're like, "What?" And so we go to this gorgeous house, and we're sitting in this couch, and my mom's like, "Tell me how she looks." There's a lot of rumors about her weight. I'm like, "Mom, we know too much about this family, and she comes down from the top of the stairs, looked beautiful. Was wearing kind of like a muumuu though. So I'm like, I don't know what to tell my mom. She looks beautiful, but she descends the staircase, very dramatic. I mean, it was like normal, but like, it's Janet Jackson, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And she sits down on the couch, and she goes right into the story. She goes, "I'm asleep one night, and in bed, fast asleep." And she's like, and I get a call. It's like she's like, and it's Jermaine. And she's like, "Dupree, not my brother." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So she's like, and he's like, "Baby, I'm coming over right now." She's like, "Is everything okay? It's 4:00 in the morning." It's like, "No, I'm coming over right now." He shows up at my door, and he hands me a DVD, and I look on it and it says Cocaine Cowboys. And I'm like, this is some surreal shit. And she goes, she sat down right away, 4 a.m. She sits down and she puts it in the DVD and she goes, and I watched it twice. Wow. And I was like, what? And we just sat there talking about Cocaine Cowboys. And I tell you, so my producer partner, Alfred doesn't like sushi. It's just like a funny thing. We always joke. What do you want for lunch? Sushi? Hates sushi. So this meeting's winding down and she's like, you all want to go to, you like sushi? And Alfred goes, yes. And she goes, let's go to Nobu for dinner. And we're like, yes, we're going to Nobu for dinner with Janet Jackson. That's what we're doing. And we had a great time. She was a sweet, and we just talked about, she goes, growing up, she goes, my sister, she loved like love story and romance novels. She goes, but I love Scarface, and I'd read about Murder Incorporated and Al Capone. And I'm like, this is just wild. And we had a great time hanging out with Janet Jackson for a while.
That's a great story, man. Thanks for sharing that, Billy. Such a great story. Wow. Well, listen, now you've made a name for yourself with those hard-hitting documentaries and covered some wild and sometimes uncomfortable truths, right? Now you're also using your voice through Because Miami podcast to call out corruption and to break down Florida politics in real time. Both platforms are rooted in truth-telling, but how was that transition for you going from behind the camera to behind the microphone like you are right now? And what inspired you to make that shift?
I obviously, like you said, nonfiction is nonfiction. Nonfiction filmmaking, documentary filmmaking. I got my producing partner told me to get on Twitter in like 2008, and I got on Twitter. I enjoyed, the microblogging or whatever they called it in those days. And it was just an extension of the truth telling that we were doing in our stories that we were doing. And we called our company Raconteur. One word, not Raconteur Films, Raconteur Studio, Raconteur Productions, Raconteur. It's a French word. We spell it phonetically, RAKONTUR.com. But it's based on a French word, Raconteur, which means one who tells stories with skill. Because we knew whatever form this would take, that's all we wanted to do. We didn't care if it was feature documentaries, if it was short films, if it was tweets, whatever it was, because we didn't know where technology was going to go and tastes were going to go and attention spans were going to go. We just wanted to, we wanted to just be ready for whatever the future held in storytelling and truth telling. And I got to tell you, I think, there were some things that kind of, radicalized me along the way. But one of the things that comes with gaining a platform, like I did on social media, and what we were fortunate enough to get from doing our docs. And it really is a blessing when you have attention or eyeballs, and it's a responsibility. And and this is kind of getting back to the politics conversation in a way where if I'm going to get a modicum of power, a little power or a lot of power, my first thought is not how can I help the oligarchs? How can I help the millionaires and the billionaires, sports team owners? My thinking is, how can I help the most people I can as possible with whatever platform or power that I have? And I realized there were so many marginalized voices in Miami, so many people who can't go to those meetings at 9 a.m. on a Thursday, who either feel like they don't have a voice or just don't have a voice because either they don't know how to access their government, they're scared to speak truth to power. And I realized, I should just go and speak, punch up and speak truth to power. That came with a learning curve. I did and still do on occasion a lot of Florida man shit. And what I mean by that is the headlines, Florida man arrested, with mobile meth lab in Walmart bathroom. The thing about it's low hanging fruit. It's funny shit. The problem is when you click the link beyond the headline, there's usually some sad shit going on there. There's poverty, there's addiction, there's abuse. Those stories are not funny beyond the headline. And so I'm like, that felt like punching down to me. Mugshots of poor people, who are addicted, who are drug addicted or have mental illness. That's not punching up. That's not using your platform for good. So I'm like, let me punch up. Let me speak truth to power. And just instinctually, it felt like the right thing to do.
So you didn't grow up like in a political family or like being civically engaged or involved, or was it more so like you built this platform? So what's next?
my grandfather, I just happened to have this. I was helping him downsize and clean out his apartment. He turns 97 in 2 weeks.
Oh,
Oh
wow.
wow.
God
This
bless.
this is his invitation to Richard Nixon's inauguration. Okay,
Wow.
Wow.
that's what this is. Yeah. So crazy. So like they were politically involved, but also my grandfather once told me he was successful in his business. He once told me one of his biggest regret in life is that he didn't make more money so that he could give more money away, because there are so many important and worthy causes and people in need that in addition to going out and working his ass off for his very large to take care of all of his extended family, his 4 kids, his 8 grandchildren, his 10 great grandchildren, you know, he was like, more people need our help. And they were very philanthropic, my grandparents in their time. So for me, it was more of that. That was public service, was through philanthropy. I'm not a rich man, but I try to give where I can. And my grandfather was a great inspiration to me. He was the first home builder to build homes in Black communities in Liberty City, in Perrine. It was a time when there was a burgeoning Black working class in South Florida, people, teachers, postal workers, police officers, firefighters, but nobody would give them mortgages, build houses. And my grandfather, let's be honest, he says, Billy, I'm no civil rights leader. I saw an opportunity. I saw a market here. And he said nobody was helping everybody. They were gainfully employed. He went to a bank and he said, listen, if I can bring in a buyer who owns their own lot of land and who could bring pay stubs, the last 3 pay stubs or whatever, will you give them, I'll create a model for a house. Will you give them a mortgage? And they said, yeah. And the next thing you knew, it grew from 1 model house to 3 to choose from 1 bank to 4 banks to 6. Everybody just realized that, like, what are we doing here? Like, we have to create this opportunity. I told a story at the Miami Beach commission meeting years ago about the days when Miami Beach was a sundown town, when if you were Black in Miami Beach, you had to be off the barrier island by sundown. Now, if you worked in the nightclubs or the hotels, you would have to go to the police station, get a card, a license card, an ID card with your picture and your thumbprint on it. And so that if you got stopped by a cop, which you inevitably would, you could say, no, I'm just passing through, sir. I'm going back to, you had a time when Muhammad Ali could fight in the Miami Beach Convention Center, but couldn't spend the night in Miami Beach. He had to go, one night in Miami, he had to go over to Overtown. That's how Overtown became the most exciting, the Harlem of the South. It became the most exciting, culturally vibrant neighborhood outside of Harlem for the Black community, because Sammy Davis Jr. could perform at the Fontainebleau in the Eden Rock, couldn't sleep there. So you had these extraordinarily talented people going, okay, we'll do the after party at the Hampton House or at the, in Overtown. But long story even longer, my grandfather was running nightclubs like the Copacabana, where they had the biggest Black acts in history. Cab Calloway, Nat King Cole, Sammy Davis Jr. performed there. And one day he remembers Demita Jo was performing with her band. And I think his manager had the day off or something. And they said, Jerry, you got to take Demita Jo and her band to the Miami Beach police station. He goes, for what? He goes, so they can get their ID cards because they're working late this weekend. And he was pissed. And he goes in and he says, I told this story to Miami Beach a commission meeting when they were trying to pass some of their new Jim Crow laws in recent years. And I told this story, and my grandfather said to the police officer, he said, I want you to take my picture too and give me a card. Wow. And he said, Mr. Cohen, you don't have to do that. He goes, if they have to do it, I have to do it. And my grandpa said he was more just pissed that he had to take time out of his day with his talent to go and do this shit. It wasn't like he was taking a contest. He was just annoyed. And I held up his card at the city commission meeting. And this is his card.
I saw that.
Yeah. He has it to this day, and he carries it around in his pocket, because even though at the time he didn't think he was taking a stand, he kept it in his wallet because it reminded him of how bleak and evil shit was, and how that could very easily happen again.
Powerful story. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
Can I ask the next question, PK, or are you cool with
Yeah,
that?
please go for it.
Because I
Yeah,
felt
yeah,
like
for
this was
sure.
a perfect, setup as we're talking about city of Miami. And if you've been following the headlines and even following you, Billy, I do, I've seen what's been going on with them canceling their 2025 election in November, and they're extending their term limits. And so um I just want to know your thoughts on it, and like, why do you oppose it, and what can happen next for elected officials, but also too, PK, you have an interesting perspective. So I would like for you to share that before
Oh,
Billy
I want to hear this.
before Billy goes
um,
in.
I
I,
want to hear this, Commissioner Key.
I didn't see anything wrong with it, because the way how it's set up, somebody's going to get an extra year. Period. So if it's not now, it's going to be at some point. And if they got the people that want to do it now, me with just vote. Period. I want more people voting. Period. End of story. And if it's going to take one more year for the ones to be there to sit there, and they're going to be voted out in a year, or they get to stay in a year based on more people voting, I think it's worth it.
Absolutely. You're not wrong in that, statistically speaking. This will probably, this could quintuple the turnout for voters, conceivably. When you look at off-year elections versus even-year elections, and off-year elections in no small part were to kind of depress turnout and disengage people, and disenfranchise arguably people. There's a couple issues. So I'm not so much we could talk about the merits of even year voting. And I know the pros and I know the cons, because I'll tell you right now, as evidenced by last year, increased voter turnout of low information voters is not necessarily good for democracy. Well, let's table that though, because I was with you that more voters is more democracy, is more enfranchisement, etc. I'm just saying maybe that's a deeper conversation. I'll save that, because there's also some very simple issues that I'll tell you right now. Damian Pardo, the commissioner who I supported, proudly helped get elected, who's spearheading this, and I believe is doing it for reasons like you. He thinks it's a good thing. He says it's going to help get new people elected, stop the political dynasties. Because in Miami, we don't recycle our trash; we reelect it generation after generation. It's always the same last names, right? Spouses or offspring, or it's crazy. For a while, we renamed the county. Remember, in the mid 90s, we voted to rename the county Dade, or Metro-Dade County, to Miami-Dade County, to basically take the name of our most famous city. Famous cities, plural, arguably. You got Miami Beach, you got Miami Gardens, you got Miami Lakes, North Miami, West Miami, and North Miami Beach. So we took on the name, we changed the name of the county to do that for, marketing purposes more than anything. But also, for a time, Miami and Miami Beach are two most famous cities around the world. Both of them, for a while, for 8 years, had second generation mayors. That means the sons of former mayors were the mayors. Like, we can't do better than that. Like, like, we couldn't find anybody better but the son of a former mayor. Like, get out of here with that. So he's trying to break the chain, break the cycle of these political crime families, in my opinion. And so the problem with that is, in an even year election, you can't, all the prices go up. We don't have this, when you're trying to staff up for a campaign, we don't have a deep bench of talent down here who know what they're doing, who know how to run a campaign competently and legally. So you now have congressional races and local races, and all the campaign talent is sucked up. Everybody else is going to be more expensive. Advertising is more expensive. Printing is more expensive. You got flyers going into mailboxes with 900 other flyers, including presidents of, candidates for president of the United States. You're going to get missed. The down ballot candidates, nobody knows who the hell you are unless you're a dynasty, you have name recognition, or you have the money, whether it's your own or through special interest, to run. So I don't think the even year election has the pros. I think they can be deceiving, is all I'm saying about the even year election. That said, my real problem here, again, I want to have that debate though, but we don't get to have that debate because these motherfuckers just did this unilaterally. And that's my problem, is process. My problem is Damian Pardo has the polling on this. He says this is super popular. I say, then bring it to the people. Let the people vote on it. Let it be a referendum. If you're going to change elections, postpone an election, cancel election semantics, let the people vote on that. You're going to unilaterally vote not only to cancel the election, but to gift yourself, and I think this is unethical, an extra year in office. Let's get to that. You just made that point. Somebody's going to get an extra year in office. Doesn't have to be that way. They could take a year away. What he's saying is that they're going to get sued if they take a year away. They're getting sued now for adding the year. You're going to get sued, as we say in Miami, irregardless. Okay, you're going to get sued. So why not do it? Why not do the right thing? Let the people decide. Or here's another thing they could do, Papa Keith. They could say, we're going to make this effective in 2028, for example. Why? Because everybody who's been elected to office right now was elected in a campaign for a 4-year term. They all just got a 5th year. What I'm saying is, if they have to run again, the next time they run again, the people will know that this is going to be the term where they get the bonus year, meaning the people get to elect them for what they know already in advance to be a 5-year term. This shit's retroactive. So we voted for these guys for a 4-year term, but they just gave themselves an extra year. So if it was effective in 2028, then the people would kind of still get to decide, do we want this guy or this gal for 5 years or not? So there's better ways of doing this.
I heard DeSantis speak up and say that he may be able to shake that up.
This is crazy shit. This is crazy. This is how you know they say politics makes strange bedfellows. I'm on the same side as Ron DeSantis here. I mean, this is bonkers. This shit is bonkers. You know, BANANAS. I mean, like, I don't even know. Like, but he's talking about suspending the mayor, Francis Suarez. Suspending the commissioners who voted for this, the scandal-plagued attorney general, this criminal, alleged criminal, James Uthmeyer. This guy's talking about it's illegal, this and that. It sounds like they have a legitimate legal dispute. Then they should sort that out. I don't think the governor should come in and micromanage one municipality of 34 in Miami-Dade County, of however many in all 67 counties of the state. Like, stay out of our business. Like let us figure it out. So but I agree. I agree with Joe Carollo, the wife beater. I agree with, he said the people should get to vote. I'm like, we are through the looking glass here, people. Like, this is crazy. So, but right is right. And I call balls and strikes. I don't care. It's my guy, Pardo. He's not my guy. Here's the thing. And I have a reputation for, quote, betraying or turning on the candidates I help get elected or I endorse. This is not about loyalty. This is about calling balls and strikes. Okay. So I'm not in a cult. I'm in a democracy. So my job in an election as a voter is to choose the best candidate who's in the race, and then whoever wins, hold that person accountable. Just because it's the person who I endorsed or I encourage other people. By the way, if I told people to vote for you, I feel 10 times more responsible to call you out on your bullshit when you fuck up, because I put myself out there and told people that's why I tough love Andrew Gillum, because I told people. There's a video out there in the internet of me at a Miami Gardens call center running a call center. I got Waffle House for everybody at the Waffle House. I went to the call center and we were making calls for Andrew Gillum. And there's a video of me on the interwebs for all posterity in a shirt going, I am an Andrew Gillum Democrat. I'm a Gillum Democrat, because I became a Democrat to vote. Our joke at the time was we were going to vote for Gillum in the primary and Graham in the general, because everybody assumed Andrew would lose the primary. But I was there. I called myself a Gillum Democrat. That's embarrassing now, and because I encourage people to do that. And I feel that much more of a responsibility to say, I got to call you out. And so that's what I'm doing with Pardo on this. I'm not in a cult. Some people say, we'll support. Is he going to change his mind? He's going to change his, his moral compass. I'm going to call you out on it. I'm real Trump derangement syndrome is people who, no matter what this guy says, he says the sky's green, they tweet the sky's green. He says, I love tacos. They love tacos. He goes, now I hate tacos. I hate that. We need to talk. We need to know about these Jeffrey Epstein files. We don't need to know about these Jeffrey, like this, no, like I'm gonna, my compass doesn't change. I know where my true north is. You're not gonna, your magnetic field is not gonna fuck me up.
And to your point, Billy, about you stepping behind the mic to empower people or give a platform. When it comes to this issue with the city of Miami and the term limits and canceling the election, what can the average resident do if they are opposed to this? We actually see Michael Hepburn, who was a mayoral candidate.
Mayor Hepburn.
Okay. Oh, so you endorse him.
All right. First of all, there's no election, so I'm not endorsing anybody yet. So they canceled the election, Janae. I mean, so.
You're right. But to his point, we've had conversations and I've interviewed him and he said that, he wanted to work to bring forth a lawsuit. So him as a resident, that's one thing. But as the average person, if they saw this, they didn't like it, because sometimes people feel helpless, which makes them not engage. From your opinion and covering the city of Miami, what can they do? What are some tangible things that people can do who didn't like what went down?
Yeah, listen, I was at a meeting just last month where you had about 100 people there for public comment. Every single one of them looking up at that dais and telling those commissioners, I want you to vote against this 287G contract, which is a collusion contract between the local police department, in this case in the city of Miami, and ICE and immigration to help the federal government do the job of the federal government, which is their job, not the local police department's job. We don't have the resources for that. The federal government does immigration, not local. The joke about Miami always is it's the only city in America with its own foreign policy, We're all there speaking out, and I'm talking about, hey, I remember a time when thousands of Miamians took to the streets in protest exactly 20 years ago. Shut down the city, shut down the MacArthur Causeway, shut down the 836, shut down the Port of Miami, shut down the city because they were protesting. They were burning American flags. They were engaged in violence with federal agents and law enforcement officers because they were going to be returning one 5-year-old immigrant to his father in Cuba. And even Joe Carollo, the then mayor, who's still on the dais, still a commissioner, he was out there on the streets with them going, and I showed a clip in the meeting going, I want to say right now to Washington, D.C., the City of Miami Police Department and Metro-Dade Police Department will not assist the federal government in seizing that boy, Elian, from his Miami relatives. I said, send them the same message now, Commissioner, as you did 20 years ago. This is a commission of immigrants. Okay. And you had 3 commissioners, 2 of whom were born in Cuba, one of whom is a first-generation American whose parents were born in Cuba, voted to terrorize a community of immigrants. So we were all there. So this speaks to people feeling powerless. People were lined up around City Hall. I've never seen anything like it. Except maybe for the Mel Reese boondoggle, the MLS, when the commissioners decided to bend over for Beckham, that sports welfare scam. So I said it, Janae. You can sip that tea. Oh, I like that shirt. I'm just seeing the shirt now. So anyway, the point is that I get that. I told you, I got a city commission meeting in the morning. I'm tired. I'm too tired to go. It's exhausting. Feeling like you're just talking, you might as well be talking to the air, the old man yelling at cloud, right? The meme with Grandpa from The Simpsons, that's what it feels like sometime. I totally get it. But best thing you can do is go to these meetings. Best thing you can do is because there really is a show of power there. And there are certain commissioners that are impacted by the presence of people in the community telling them to do the right thing. I've seen it happen. I've seen oftentimes it's theater. They already know how they're voting. I mean, days, if not weeks, if not months, if not years before they get to that meeting. But I've seen wheels turn. I've seen votes change. I've seen hearts changed. I've seen minds changed. But you really got to be in the room where it happens. And that's hard for a lot of people. But if there's some way you can find to do that, whether it's, through social media, whether it's a lot of cities and municipalities allow for remote participation. You can leave a voicemail, send an email for the record, send a video, or participate via Zoom. I just whenever you can, and encourage, more importantly, bring your friends, have a tailgate. Okay. Go get the grill out there, get the cooler, bring friends. I always do that. I call people up. I'm like, let's go. We doing public comment this week? We doing public comment this week? It's important. And it might take a little bit of work. Sometimes you've seen crazy shit. They'll defer an item. The item that everybody's there to talk about. Can't talk about it anymore. It's not on the agenda. We only allow public comment on what's on the agenda. You just took off work. You just took a bus, the metro, whatever to get there. And now they're not, oh, it's going to be deferred 2 weeks, maybe next month. Then they do that shit again. And it becomes a war of attrition, where they're just trying to discourage you from participating. You just gotta, it's like it works if you work it, and if you don't, and what we've just discovered, by the way, is that our democracy is like Tinkerbell. If you don't believe in it, it does not exist. This shit is, it could just disappear. It is an agreement, but I mean, the Constitution was really like a negotiation with terrorists is what it was. But, it was an agreement amongst people to say, let's try this idea. And the second people say, fuck this idea, it just evaporates. So it's like a muscle. If you don't exercise it, it will atrophy.
On that note, I think it'll be a beautiful segue to talk about alligator Alcatraz.
Gator Gulag. What's there to say? It's a concentration camp. I don't care what anybody, and this is the fucked up thing about this, is that like the second people think concentration camp, they think death camp. Those are two different things. Okay. The Nazis didn't start out with death camp. That was the last 3 years of a 12-year reign of terror. You know how it starts? It starts with lies, with fear mongering, with making you scared of the other, with saying that there is a common villain and enemy and a reason why your lot in life sucks. And it's because of them. It's because of those other people. It could be Jews, it could be brown people, it could be black people, it could be whatever it is. And build that mistrust and build that hatred and dehumanize. Create a situation where we are celebrating. We're going to have alligator Alcatraz swag we're going to wear. And we're going to be proud of what exactly? A building in the Everglades where people are going to die there. Like full stop. If you've ever been out in the Everglades in the summer, people are going. And by the way, it might not just be inmates. I think working there is cruel and unusual punishment. So not only are we violating a great many people's Fifth Amendment rights of due process, you're going to violate their Eighth Amendment rights for cruel and unusual punishment. And we're already seeing that's not even fully populated yet, but they got 5,000 beds. We're already seeing that it's not the worst of the worst going out there. There's a DACA holder apparently out there. They're legal, for crying out loud. You got people who, just got arrested yesterday or something who they're sending there because of their questionable immigration status. And we've seen people too who have 20, 30, one guy. This is pre-alligator Alcatraz. Guy 75 years old, minding his own business in Key Largo. He got busted for pot hauling back in 1980. Okay, Cuban guy. And he's lived here ever since, not gotten in trouble, non-violent, non-repeat offender, lived his life, has a family, has a home. They snatched him right off the street and he died in Chrome detention.
I saw that. Yeah.
So basically, 40 years later, man gets a death sentence for pot hauling in 1980. I mean, that's just not. Who are we as America? What is America? Like, of all the appalling things that have happened over the last, however long, just 4 or 5, 6, 7 months alone. What the way we're treating immigrants, because we're all immigrants in this country, that is the most appalling, because that is what the American dream is. What Ronald Reagan said was that you can move to France, or Paris, but you're not French, right? You can move to Germany, but you're not German. Anybody can move to the United States and you're an American. That's the magic. That's the promise. So I have a question. What are we if we're not that anymore? If we're going to deport the Statue of Liberty back to France, what are we? When people think of America what are we? We're just a bunch of just fast food. We're just consumers. We become the most cynical, darkest version of ourselves. This is what we are. I don't know. It's dark to see how many people in this community voted to deport themselves, voted to deport their fathers, voted to deport their mothers, voted to deport their husbands. There's one guy, I call it a MAGA divorce. His wife got deported. He still supports Donald Trump. Everybody's like, wow. I think he called ICE. I don't know about that. He didn't want to give her half in the divorce, so he sent her to Chrome. And that's the thing too. Chrome, people have been. Remember when the Haitians rioted at Chrome back in 1980 because the conditions were deplorable.
Yeah.
Okay, and if the condition, and people are still complaining about the conditions in Chrome, and that is a real building. That's a quote unquote real facility. What's it going to be like in some fucking circus tent in the middle of the goddamn swamp?
Yeah.
Other than that, I got nothing to say about it.
This guy is
a mouthful of nothing, right?
But to your point, Billy, about like what's going on, and like it feels like it's just happening. And I see a comment from Mike, and I think PK, this could also to segue into a question that you wanted to ask about the Democratic Party. Yeah. Mike has a great question comment in the comment section about there's a civic engagement and social capital problem that we have, not just in our city, but just around the country, where working class people, like you brought up the issues of like why it's so hard to be civically engaged. To me, like we need to be empowering ourselves as the people to not only engage in this, but like overthrow this shit and change it. Like a city meeting shouldn't be when I'm working. Election day shouldn't be when I'm working. Like, you don't want me to be engaged in this. And so I think the conversation needs to become like, yeah, we need to be engaged, but we also need to be having a plan to change this so we all can be involved, and we can have a more representative government as they claim that we have.
How is election day not a national holiday?
Exactly.
How is that? I remember being pissed years ago. I was in traffic court, a parking ticket, by the way, on an election day. And it got dismissed. I was just pissed. And I'm thinking, like, all these people are here for some parking ticket or some minor traffic offense. And if I were the judge, again, this is what I'm saying about if I had a little power, I would try to help the most people. I would have gotten right up there in the morning. I would have looked out everybody. I would have said, everybody's case is dismissed today. Go out and vote right now. Okay. Mm. And then bailiff put a sign on my door. We're closed. Go vote right now. I'm not going to make you get an I voted sticker and come back and show up. I'm going to give you all a gift. Today's a holiday. It's a traffic ticket holiday. It's a traffic court holiday. Go vote. But this judge was just churning the butter, it was just like, I'm like, this is gross. Like that any other government business is getting done today. Close the courts, close everything except for the polling places and the supervisor of elections. It is a holiday. Encourage people to get out and vote. I totally agree.
But it's by design, clearly. To even,
of course.
To even your other point, it's by design so they can keep control. You know, that's why cities do their elections randomly throughout the year. People don't even know this election. You know, this is all by design so those who have the power can keep it.
100%. And I mean, ultimately, when I said earlier, where's I got my favorite. Here it is. Elie Mystal. Allow me to retort. Elie Mystal wrote one of my favorite books about the United States Constitution. It's hilarious. It's brilliant, very readable, even if you're not a pre-law student or a legal scholar. It's amazing. And it basically, part of the reason I love it, it reinforces like my worst feelings about when I said the Constitution was a negotiation with terrorists. And what do I mean by that? It was a negotiation with rich white men who felt that human beings were their farm equipment. Okay. And how do you have a rational conversation or negotiation with people like that? And they filled this document with all kinds of booby traps and time bombs and shit that was always going to ultimately blow up in our face. I mean, this document was so perfect. A couple years later, they had to amend it over and over. They had the Bill of Rights to amend it. And then it led to the Civil War. And then we never really reckoned with that. So in a way, you're right, Papa Keith, this idea of like, weekday shit, workday shit, is like, poll taxes or reading tests or some of these sort of like post, Civil Rights Act, Jim Crow-esque kind of laws that discourage people from participating in their government.
Yep. And it's so unfortunate. So I will segue into that question. Thank you, Janae. I wanted to ask you, I remember you were running for Miami-Dade Democratic chair position.
Yeah.
What happened with
DEC.
that? I mean, I kind of know what happened, but I would like to hear. I'd like you to tell our audience what happened with that.
You're just trying to get me to talk shit about Chev. That's what you're trying to do.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. I just honestly, it was more coming from the democratic part of things more than a single person.
Yeah, I know. I hear you. I'm just playing.
Just the party within itself.
Yeah. So the bottom line. So yeah, I briefly ran for the chair position of the Miami-Dade Democratic Executive Committee. It was kind of like the Miami-Dade Democrats, if you will, but like the official apparatus of the state party, which is a disaster. The state party is a disaster. A buddy of mine convinced me, because I was throwing pot shots from the outside looking in about how dysfunctional this was. Democrats never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity, and this thing's a mess. You know, I was an NPA since I was 18, became a Gillum Democrat, returned to NPA, and then in shortly thereafter, I became a Democrat full time, because the only thing worse than a two-party system is a one-party system. And I didn't leave the Republican Party. The Republican Party left the United States is what happened. So I was like done with that. And in Florida, in a closed primary state, I want to participate more in my democracy. I want to vote more, not less. I want to be able to participate in a primary election. So I'm now an NPA again because of what a mess this was last year. But the point is that Chevron Jones, the state senator from Broward, out of nowhere suddenly became a member of the Miami-Dade DEC, like expedited by the chair of the state party, Nikki Fried. And everybody said like, oh, she's, removed our chair, Robert Dempster, and she wants to basically install Chevron Jones as the new chair, and he's going to run like unopposed. And I was like, no. Running unopposed is not an election. That's a coronation. And I was like, this ain't right. And I said, are we at least going to have a forum in which we can engage Chev, hear his vision for the party? It's a presidential election year. It's a pretty big deal. The writing was on the wall that it was going to be a disaster. Nikki Fried was on social media lying to everybody, to our donors, to our base, to our volunteers, to the hardworking true believers. She was lying to everybody. Florida's in play. Bullshit. Oh, there's a poll that shows Kamala up, later in the year. Kamala's up 15% in Miami-Dade. I'm like, dude, this is science fiction. Like, I'm on the ground here. I know which way. This is going redder than ever. Like, but just lying, and which doesn't set you up for success in the future. When you're lying to everybody, it gets people disillusioned. Because you're being gaslit by your own leadership. So Chevron Jones was like, no, we're not going to have a candidate for him. No, I'm not going to answer questions. No, I'm not going to engage the voters in the DEC to share my vision. And I was like, well, fuck that. I said, if somebody else is running, then we'll be able to engage. So I ran in order to have that public conversation.
Okay.
I ran because if he ran unopposed, they weren't going to engage. They were just going to be like, no, it's a coronation. So I'm like, well, let me run. And it was a whole bunch of, they were shady as fuck with this thing. They agreed to do it at a public venue. Then they said, no, we want it to be private. Then we invited a moderator who was a journalist who said, well, I can't moderate this privately. I'm a journalist. I'm doing it because I want to, for the public's benefit. And they wouldn't let us record it. It was so shady. The Democrats were so shady about this. But we got it. We did it. I recorded it and I released it. Okay. And then they released it after I did. It's like, no, you can't break up with me. I'm breaking up with you. You can't fire me. I quit. So, anyway, I just wanted to have that conversation. I wanted to hear his vision for the party, which was as, backwards and regressive and unsuccessful as I thought it was going to be. And the proof is in the pudding. Look at how Democrats performed in Miami-Dade and statewide in 2024. Great job, Chev. Great job, Nikki Fried. I wrote a letter resigning from not just the DEC, but the party last November, and telling them that if they had any shame or any pride, Nikki Fried and Chev would resign as well.
Wow.
Can't win for losing.
What do you think it's going to take to, rebuild the Democratic presence in Florida and even South Florida? Like, what do you think it's going to take?
A miracle. Yeah, I mean, a lot of prayer, I guess, if you're a believer. I mean, to any God who will listen. I think that the presentation of ideas has been ineffective. I think the Democrats are really bad at messaging and really bad at telling a story. And even when they're good at it, they seem to get beat by people who know how to fearmonger better, who know how to divide. What was the line in pardon me, Senator J. Billington Bulworth, played by Warren Beatty in the 1998 movie Bulworth with Halle Berry. He says, I'm paraphrasing, he says, rich people have always stayed on top by dividing poor people from black people. But poor people have more in common with black people than they do with rich people. And, the message being that, like, there's the 99%, as Bernie Sanders always says, and then there's the 1%. And there's more of us than there are of them. So they know the only chance they got is to divide the 99%. And how do you do that? You point over there and you say, that is your problem. Your problem is, poor immigrants who have 3 jobs that Americans don't want, and not the billionaire who is concentrated more, the vast majority of the wealth amongst the tiniest minority of the people. They're not your problem. They're not the ones holding you back. It's the brown people. It's the black people. It's the Jews. It's whoever the villain du jour is. And that gets people to vote a certain way. So, I mean, just got to tell, I think it's better candidates, number one. I think it's a better story, number two. When I say better candidates, by the way, look at the last 3 Democratic presidential nominees. I'm a small business owner, so I see a lot of resumes and I have to hire a lot of people, so if you were to take the resumes of the top contenders for the presidential election, you're a small business owner just looking to hire somebody, the best person for the job, and you black out the name, with a Sharpie or whatever, and you just look at the CVs of Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump, of Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, of Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump, there's no question who the most qualified person is. Okay. There's no question. And this is the most important job in the world that we're hiring for, not me for some camera person or, editor or something at my company. So I take this responsibility seriously. I don't care if you have an R or D next to your name. I want the most competent candidate. I told you my job as a voter, pick who I believe is the best candidate in this race and then hold them accountable no matter who they are or if I voted for them or not. But that's not how America voted. They did not vote for, objectively, by the way, the most competent and the most qualified candidate. So when I say better candidates, I unfortunately don't just mean the most competent, the most qualified. Okay? I mean the person who can also win. Because your question was, how do we start being relevant again? Let's be real. The Democrats have been a virtual non-entity, irrelevant in this state since the turn of the century. Okay, since Jeb Bush was governor in circa 1999-ish. So done, and the brand is dead. It's dead. Like, I think they should rename the party because it's in Miami we always get accused of being fair weather fans, right? Oh yeah, nobody shows up when they're losing, right? Nobody shows up when it's like, yeah, because we got better shit to do. If you're a losing brand, if you're not associated with winning, who the hell wants to be associated with you? Who wants to rock your swag? Who wants to rep your logo? No
That's
doubt.
true.
So I still, if I wear any Dolphin shit, it's always the OG logo because that's the last time they won anything. You know what I mean? Like, what are we talking about here? Like 1972 for crying out loud, So, so fair weather fans, nobody wants to be associated with a losing brand in this town, in this state, wherever. So I mean, it's rebranding, it's finding winning candidates, and it's finding people and it's tough because you got to inspire the base and you got to grab, most of the NPAs basically, because all that's happened on Nikki Fried's watch is that the Republicans have gained what is it at this point? A nearly $2 million voter registration, 2 million voter registration advantage or something crazy like that. We are not a purple state. Let's be real. Georgia is more blue than Florida. Texas is more blue than Florida. So we need to start, like all politics is local. You need to be on the ground, not just on election years or at election time. We need to be on the ground, listening to the people, understanding them and the kind of candidate, the kind of problems they have and the kind of candidates they want to vote for, whether or not we agree that it is they're the most qualified or the most, because if you're not winning, you're not governing.
That part.
That
part.
Oh man, listen, we can go on and on with you, brother. We're gonna ask you a few more questions and try to give you an evening to relax and enjoy, man. Do you think that maybe I'm using the wrong word by saying personal, but do you think your personal, or if it's not personal, do you think your beefs with folks like Joe Corroyo help or hurt your goals? Like, what do you see as the end game when things get that personal?
It's a great question. And part of the thinking, to be honest, is making noise, getting attention in this attention economy, not for myself, but for the issues and for the truly malevolent forces in our community. Because if you want to know what's wrong with anything, an organization, a government, a community, a company, whatever it is, you don't look at what changes. You look at what's constant, certain government officials come and go, police chiefs come and go, people come and go. If you want to know what's wrong, you got to say, what doesn't, if this place is broken and we need to fix it, what's the problem? The problem is people who have been there for. Joe Corroyo was the youngest city commissioner ever elected to the city of Miami in 1979. And he is a commissioner right now. We're still talking about him. Why? Why? So in order to call attention to him, I just, what's the line? You keep telling lies about me, I'll keep telling the truth about you. And so, that's my tactic with him. We do the parody songs, like instead of the Bee Gees' Night Fever, it's Wife Beater, because, he was arrested for domestic violence when he was mayor of Miami back in 2001. And he's back. He might be the next mayor of Miami. If there's an election this November or next November, whatever November it is, he might very well be reelected. In fact, I think if he decides to run, which he hasn't announced yet, but he kind of has, he's fundraising and privately, announced that he would be the presumptive winner, I think, of that race. Sorry, Michael Hepburn. Sorry, Eileen Higgins. Sorry, Ken Russell. Sorry, Emilio Gonzalez. Sorry, June Savage. I'm thinking of all the candidates. I think Joe Corroyo would likely be the next mayor. And so
why? Because he has the name recognition, the money. Like, why would you say that?
What's the James Bond song? Nobody does it better. Man, he is so good at this.
Does it better.
He is so good at it because he has nothing. He has nothing. He has no business. He has no other career in the private sector. His daughters haven't talked with him in 20 years. He's on his fourth wife. Like, this guy is a miserable shell of a man. There's no human. He loves nobody. Nobody loves him. He doesn't have friends. He has transactions, this guy. And so he's got nothing else. So all he does is this. He doesn't know the system. He created the system. He is the system. He doesn't know the city charter and the ordinances and the staff. He wrote them. Like, this guy lives and breathes this. Like, I got to respect it. He is a survivor. He is still there. So when Ozzie Guillen got into trouble for being like, I hate Fidel, but I respect him because that motherfucker, after the nuclear holocaust, we're going to have cockroaches, crocodiles, Twinkies, and Fidel Castro. We all thought that for a while. That guy was going to be around forever. Now he's looking up on us, probably laughing. But, but Joe Corroyo, man, he's still there. I respect that. I mean, it's remarkable. This guy should be in prison, but he's not. He is a city commissioner. He was elected by maybe I don't know what the margin was, 300 votes, 1,000 votes in one district of 5 in the city. And he is now the de facto strong mayor, the de facto city manager, the de facto city attorney, the de facto building and code inspector, the de facto police. I mean, the guy just runs the entire city through fear and intimidation and extortion, allegedly. Although there is now a sworn affidavit from his former chief of staff that he witnessed Joe Carollo on the phone with current city manager Art Noriega, blackmailing him, telling him, if you don't do what I want you to do, I'm going to release publicly that you allegedly defrauded your ex-wife and the court by trying to hide some piece of. I'm like, what is going on here? The man is, and nobody's talked about it, but there's a sworn affidavit that Joe Carollo blackmailed the city manager, and that's why shit's so crazy and backwards and upside down. And nobody's done anything about it. Kathy Rundle's asleep at the wheel. I mean, that, like, the crypt keeper over there in the city attorney's office. I mean, what are we doing? Talk about what's broken about this town. I mean, she's our only top cop since Janet Reno left for the Clinton administration in 1992, 91, 92, I think, 93. Holy shit. 32 years, never once prosecuted a police officer for an on-duty killing. How's that possible? How's that possible? How does she have to recuse herself from every public corruption investigation? Because she's involved in it. She has a conflict of interest. That's because you in the corruption. Okay? And when you abdicate your responsibility to prosecute public corruption cases, you send a message of impunity to generations of county and city officials that you can do whatever the hell you want and get away with it, and I'm not going to hold you accountable. And that's why this town is so toxic.
Do you feel like that's a uniquely Miami thing? Because corruption happens all over the country, but do you feel like there's a special sauce to the corruption here in Miami?
A sazon, yeah. We got that Everglades, that alligator Alcatraz seasoning, yeah. That Everglades seasoning, yeah. Yeah. So the Miami of today is the America of tomorrow, and I think that's why the cancellation or the postponement or whatever the hell you want to call it of the election down here unilaterally by 3-2 majority of the city commission became a viral story and a national, international story. Because people are scared that this is some sort of trial run or beta testing. Because this is where, I mean, Florida is the evil laboratory for some of the worst, Florida fuckery, I call it. That's our number one export, and so. A lot of
that's a Jamaican word, by the way.
Fuckery?
Yeah.
It is a Miami or Florida word to me. I mean, this is like we are the laboratory for all these shitty ideas, stand your ground, the shoot your neighbor law, charter school scams, insurance fraud, Medicare fraud. Like, we just export all these schemes and scams. And so, like, that's why I said we got a Florida man in the White House. That's what it is. And now everybody's trying to kind of like, out Nazi each other with like, who'd have the worst idea to terrorize and terrify and torture the most people. This is just like absolutely cruelty theater that politics have become. That's why I'm saying, like, politics is just the WWE now. And if the Democrats don't embrace that and start running candidates who can penetrate, I know he's from New York, but if Donald Trump isn't a Florida man, then I'm not a Florida man. I mean, come on now. But like, I think that the Democrats need to understand that it might not just be about the best and most qualified person for the job. You want to surround that person with the best and most qualified people and support. But we need to start getting real about the kinds of candidates that can penetrate. Listen, I had high hopes for Papa Keith in that regard because of name recognition, because of reputation. So yeah, maybe you're right. Trying if first you don't succeed, vote again.
Billy, do you feel like, because you're critical of a lot of elected officials, but do you feel like there's anybody who gets it right? And if so, like, who are some people, elected officials? Because it feels a little doom and gloom,
Yeah,
It feels like there's like we just have no hope. So, like, is there anybody that you've seen from following Florida politics, South Florida politics, Miami politics, whatever, like, that you feel like are genuinely trying to do the right thing and gets it right?
let's be real. There's no purity tests. Everybody's going to let you down at some point. Everybody's going to disappoint you. You're not going to agree on everything. There's going to be some votes you disagree with. There might be some flat out bad votes in there. It's tough to be like a one issue voter, so you just, or to have a purity test. So I try to, I often get hair on fire, as you can tell, and get passionate and worked up about shit. And sometimes I need to take a deep breath, need to put the phone down, need to rest the carpal tunnel and maybe not tweet about it or whatever. And so I have to establish that, because there's going to be people that I'm going to mention who I don't always agree with, but I respect them through even our disagreements. Down here, I like Javier Fernandez, the mayor of South Miami. In Central Florida, I like Carlos Smith and Anna Escamani. I like, I'm taking a shine to David Jolly, who has announced that he's running as a governor. I don't know if I'm going to support him yet, but I'm taking a shine to him. He's a recovering Republican himself, and so I respect that. And there's probably a few more that I can think of. Listen, as a lawmaker, I like Chevron Jones. I respect Chevron Jones. I think he's all in all, good people and means well, and more often than not gets the votes right when it matters. So there's I'm taking a shine to Raquel Regalado, who I had not supported publicly. She's my county commissioner, but who, like I said, I'm calling balls and strikes. It's like, well, she comes out on the right side of things more often than not. And again, you can't expect, nobody bats 1,000, and nobody ever is, especially when it's subjective, is going to bat 1,000 in my eyes. Who else? I mean, it's a pretty small sorority or fraternity there, but there's a few.
All right. We appreciate that, man. This has been amazing, Billy. I mean, you have.
I'm sorry. Someone asked about Pizzo. Yeah, right up until the point he decided to run for governor as an independent, or an NPA. That's just bullshit. If he was running for attorney general, I would probably, more often than not, depending on the competition, I might support him. But now he's just a spoiler candidate. It's just sour grapes now, and I don't respect that. But as a lawmaker, I agreed with a lot of what he did, and liked his temperament. He was a bit of, he had a little bit of that WWE edge, a little bit of that. Listen, he's a rich guy, so he doesn't give a fuck, so that gives him a little bit of an advantage to tell the truth where other people may not be so privileged. And so I like that about him.
That's what's up. What if he had ran as a Democrat for governor?
I mean, in a primary, I'd have to, like I said, I'd have to look at the, it's too soon
right.
To know.
Well, I mean, it's not happening now. I was just curious that.
But it's happening soon. I mean, David Jolly threw his hat in the ring early to try to stake out a claim here, and got Pizzo to basically leave the party and announce that he's running for governor as an NPA. He was going to run for governor as a Democrat, and then he realized David Jolly just probably rained on my parade there. So, because there's nothing Democrats love more to run for governor of Florida than Republicans. So.
That part. Got to ask you this question, Billy. Here on That Part Podcast, we talk about ways to give back. Is there any grassroots or philanthropic work that you do in the community to give back that people would be surprised to know about, or any projects you're a part of that you would like to highlight with us here?
Well, no, I mean, I do my best, but really it's important to shout out, I think, people who are doing good in the community. Like my grandpa said, there are so many worthwhile causes and so many people who need help. I want to shout out the Circle of Brotherhood in Miami, an organization who does the kind of work that the government doesn't do, or doesn't know how to do, or doesn't want to do. And they, like a lot of fantastic nonprofits, got their funding cut by just vicious Doge bullshit. That some of these grants went to law enforcement, went to state attorneys, went to prosecutors' offices to do the kind of work that does not necessarily involve the criminal justice system, but the kind of community policing work, the kind of, diversion programs, the kind of stuff that hopefully either keeps people from getting in trouble, or after they get in trouble, keeps them out of trouble, and reduces the recidivism rate, and gives people shit to do rather than be on the streets. And so I want to shout out Circle of Brotherhood. So if people are looking for a worthwhile cause to volunteer or to donate, I'm a big fan.
That's what's up. Thank you.
Yeah, we love the Circle of Brotherhood over here. We see Street Minister Anthony Durden in the comments giving you a thank you. I have a question that I want to ask, you, and just as someone who just from the outside looking in, and I know you're a fair person and you call out everybody, but I'll say this as now talking to you, I feel a little bit different, but I still want to ask this because it's come up in private conversations. It feels sometimes icky when you call out Black elected officials or Black leaders, and as because you're a white man. I don't know your full ethnicity, but you know what I'm saying. Like it just feels.
I'm as white as Papa Key's shirt. Oh yeah.
Gotcha. And so for people who may have felt like it's something problematic in the tone and the way that you called out our leaders, because we know the specific reasons on why Black people, we like to keep our stuff in house, because we understand if you, even with Andrew Gillum, we're like, we know he was.
Is he here?
Naked, but don't give him too much. It just feels icky. And I remember seeing some of your posts on certain elected officials. What would you say to people who feel like they have that view on your take? And what would you want them to know about you in that regard?
Sorry, not sorry. I think here's what I'd say. I get it. And I'm, constantly checking my privilege and constantly trying to, like I said, use my platform to amplify voices that may not otherwise or feel that they don't have the ability for that. That's not because I'm a fucking saint or I want, a pat on the back or anything. I just think it's the right thing to do. And I think calling out truth to power is important. I get this shit all the time. You hate Cubans. I was like, the fuck are you I live in Miami. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, what does that even mean? That's like, what is just a patently stupid thing to say? But here's the reality. If you're going to speak truth to power and punch up in Miami, statistically, odds are there's going to be some Cubans in that group. So we live in a majority community. And so let me just say this. You can either be an oppressed minority who white people or Hispanic or whoever else can't criticize, or you can be in charge. You can be in power. You can be elected. You can be a public, but you can't have it both ways. You can't say, no, you can't talk about this mayor because he's Cuban and you're white. No, you can't talk about this commissioner because he's Black and you're white. No, you can't talk about this this mayor because she's a woman and you're a man. No, you can't talk about this because he's a Christian and you're Jewish. Fuck that, I say. Okay, I like, and I get it, by the way, I get it. I'm a white man. I mean, you strip it down to its basics. He's a white man talking shit about a Black person. He's a white man talking shit about a Cuban or whoever. I'm not. I'm speaking truth to power. They are not just a Cuban or a Black person or a Jewish person. They are our leaders. They are our public officials. You pay for their shit. I pay for their shit. And you should call him out and I should call him out. You want to talk about Francis Suarez? You're a Black woman. He's a Cuban man. What does that have to do with anything? Like, he's the mayor of Miami, for crying out loud. You're punching up. The punching down, like I said, I check myself on that. But these commissioners, these mayors, they can defend themselves. Okay. They have a platform. They have power. I don't accept this idea that we can only like that. By the way, I appreciate what you're saying in that there is this idea of like internal kind of house cleaning or whatever. You said, keep it sort of like, keep it in house or whatever. But once you become a public official, once you run for office, once you're in our office, that is our office that you are in. That is our sergeant at arms, not your sergeant at arms. That is our city hall, not your city hall. And I just think that everybody has it. That's my point. Isn't like I need to be the only one, or I want everybody else to do it too. Like that's the most important things. I want to encourage people to have, you know, to have a voice and to participate in this system. And yeah, I would. But that's the thing too, is that like people get. We live in a very tribal town. I always say, you know, there's a common misconception about Miami that we're a melting pot. We are not a melting pot. We are a TV dinner where sometimes the peas fall into the mashed potatoes. Okay. We self-segregated this community, both deliberately and so, you know, politically and socially. We, you know, that was intentional from a, you know, from a post, you know, civil rights perspective and from a social perspective. And so the tribalism is not healthy, you know, because a lot of people feel like when people say like, oh, you only criticize Republicans. Really? Are you serious? Keon Hardiman, Danielle Levine Cava, Phil Levine, Kristen Rosen Gonzalez, Chev Jones, Nikki Fried. I could go on and on and on. Some of those are some of them are Jews. So I don't not pick on my own. Oh, they're Jewish. Don't talk shit about the Jewish politicians. Fuck that. They're in power. They're taking our money. They have the, you know, they're voting on shit that affects my life so that's the thing too. Every single day, these local politicians, these local elections are far more important than even national elections are. Because it used to be, it took a while for shit to dribble down from DC. Now it's a little bit narrower, that window. But the reality is that what not just your governor, what your city councils, what your commissioners vote on, that affects you every second of every minute of every hour of every day. It's the lights going red and green. Okay. It's the trash getting picked up. It's the police. I mean, like, it is the most important shit that affects your life all the time is your local government. People don't even know who their mayor is. People don't know what's in Miami-Dade. It's so confusing because there's 34 municipalities. People don't know what city they live in or don't live in if they're unincorporated. Like it's crazy confusing on purpose, as we've been saying, crazy. And then this diffusion of responsibility. You go to your local government and they go, oh, no, that's the state. The state goes, oh, no, that's the feds. The feds goes, oh, no, that's your local government. So you suddenly have this circle jerk and this diffusion of responsibility where you're paying all these governments and nobody's responsible for anything. It's nobody's fault and nobody can help. I just, you know, I wish I had a more succinct, soundbitey answer for you on this, because I get this so much. But I mean, really, it's just fuck that. And I would encourage more people to participate. More people should criticize white politicians. More people should criticize Cuban politicians. More people should criticize black politicians. I just don't care. In case you're not reading between the lines, what I'm saying is more people should criticize politicians. Period. Mm-hmm. More people should get involved. More people should get engaged. More people should punch up and speak truth to power. Participate in the meetings. I mean, legally and constitutionally punch up. It's a figurative term, punching up. You know, it's participate in your government, exercise your First Amendment rights. And I just don't care. I mean, I'm not pulling like a colorblind card either. You know, we all see color. I get it. But that's not what this is about. And it's never been about that.
Accountability.
100%.
I appreciate that. And honestly, after having a conversation and listening as I've been digging even more into your content, even before I knew you were going to be a guest, I didn't feel that way. It felt like what you said is like, I'm speaking truth to power. I'm talking about politicians. I think just culturally, systematic racism is always going to feel a little icky for me. Also, too, you're funny as fuck. Like, so you got that Miami. I can tell you from Miami. So, you know, we go kind of hard with our jokes and we go in. So when you go in, you go in. So I can't laugh when you going at the Cubans or the white boys and then be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he said that about a black person. So I have to check that within myself. But I also feel like, too, it's just always going to be something culturally and historically that I may be like, ooh, that kind of cringe. It's like, even you said stuff about Gillum, I'm like, ooh.
you don't get to pick your parents. You know, I mean, I'm not going to apologize for, you know, for being white. All I can do is say, I get it. Like, I understand that I have privilege. I can understand that I don't have certain problems as a result of this. I know. So what you say is I like there's nothing I can do about it, you know? So it's like, but I totally understand what you're saying. And sometimes I want to bite my tongue and pull my punches. And I'm like, but wait, I'd only be doing that because of, like you said, the optics of it. It's icky. And then I'm like, but if Andrew Gillum was white or Jewish or Cuban, I'd be saying exactly the same thing. I mean, making the same jokes about him that if it were Francis Lawrence who got in that quantum, I'd be saying exactly the same thing. Because he's Cuban? No. Because he's black? No. Because Danielle Levine Cava's a woman? No. Because she's Jewish? No. Because she's a Democrat? No. Because he's a no. Like, that's, as someone said, I'm an equal opportunity truth teller. I'm an equal opportunity offender too. Like, I don't,
anybody can get it.
But that's why people say, "Oh, he's not loyal." It's like, no, my loyalty is to the truth, and my loyalty is to doing good for as many people as possible. So might not be your truth, it might not be everybody's truth, but like, to me, it's like, if I see you fucking up, if that ball is right down the middle, that's a strike. If that ball is outside, that's a ball. Like, and we're all seeing the same thing. We can disagree, I guess. It can be subjective, is where that box is, but. Like, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be like, we all saw that shit, right? That was crazy. That wasn't right. That's what I try to. I don't buy, and I don't always get it right. And maybe my jokes are sometimes not, a little uncouth or maybe a little icky, as you would say. I accept that criticism, that constructive criticism. I do.
Could you ever see yourself running for office, Billy?
You know how they say never say never?
Yeah.
Never, never, ever, ever, never, ever, ever,
Totally
never, never, ever. Okay, never. I just,
Wow.
I've been convinced, and my brief stint running for DEC chair, which I immediately, as soon as we got I actually resigned in my closing statement of the candidate forum, because that's what I did it for. I wanted the forum. I'm like, I won. I got the forum. We got to hear from Chev. Everybody vote your conscience, So I would, but what I realize is that I think that, and this might not be true for everyone. I think it's true for me. I can be more effective. I could effectuate more change, more positive change from the outside than I ever could the inside. So I think I'm most useful here to do more good for more people. And again, we're not always going to agree on what that is, but that's my take.
There you go. Janae?
I mean, that was my last question. I want to ask more, but I also too see the time, and I don't want to take up your entire evening.
Let's do it. We'll do one more. Nah, it's so late now. I got nothing. Let's just do it. Where's the tequila? Who's got the tequila? Let's fucking drink. This would be a drinking podcast.
It should. Well, I drink. I just don't let the people know I'm drinking.
So no.
I used to drink last series. I didn't.
No dry July for Janae.
No.
I should have had a drink. I didn't realize, this is great. I'm having such a great time with you guys.
I love that.
I really do want a cocktail.
Billy, where did you used to get the key lime pies from?
Miss Piami.
Thank you.
Miss Piami, at Miss Piami on IG. They have them at Blue Collar, at Mignonette, and at Books and Books in Cafe.
Oh, Books and Books, yeah.
Coral Gables. Yeah, if you're down south.
Got it.
I'll bring you one.
My brother.
You're gonna. You got.
Like the old days.
It's been a minute since I've been in Miramar. It's been a minute. Those were fun those days.
Come on up. Come on my show, man. Let's go.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I love it. He just wants the pie now. He's just inviting every other.
That part. Look, well, Billy, while we have you, because I feel like you have all the opinions and insight. I saw briefly, I started this documentary I found on YouTube, and it was about the economics and the changing landscape of South Florida and mainly Miami when it came to the have and have nots. And they were calling it the Wall Street of the South, or the new Wall Street. And they were talking about all these millionaires and billionaires who were coming into Miami and making it even more extremely unaffordable for the everyday person and traditional Miami residents, Black residents, Spanish residents, poor people. What are your thoughts on that? And is there a way to reverse that, or is it just shot to hell at this point, and that the people of a certain income just aren't going to be able to afford to live in Miami?
I think it was back in 2015. I was on another podcast, and I made the prediction that and this is in the before times, right? It's pre-pandemic, that in our lifetimes we would see swamp favelas in the Everglades. That in Miami, remember the first in like we're first in everything last, right? So like we had like the largest income gap, the largest wealth gap, and it was getting wider faster down here. The separation between the haves and have-nots, and I was basically saying like Miami is going to be, particularly for the working class, for the people who, effectively those of us who kind of serve the rich people, if you will, like we're not gonna be able to afford to live. I mean, I said we are going to live in a time when there will be no Cubans in Little Havana, no Haitians in Little Haiti, no Dominicans in Little Santo Domingo, no Bahamians in Little Bahamas. I could go on and on with all, but like the people who built the city, the people whose culture infused the city. It is the culture of the city. Miami has no culture without Hispanic people and Black people. The United States practically has no culture without Black people and Hispanic people. Because what is Miami culture beyond? What is American culture beyond that? So what's going to happen is the people who built the city can't afford to live here anymore, and that will destroy the city. Because once you have no culture, it's what I was saying about America and how we treat immigrants. Like, what are we? What is this idea? What is our brand? If not that, it's the same thing with Miami. But the reality is they don't call it our Miami. So it's, this is what's, and I said this shit 2015, I think it was. I was on a podcast talking about dogfight, and I was like, and then the pandemic happened, and then it accelerated. It didn't create a lot of new problems so much as it accelerated all the bad trends. So our lack of infrastructure, our lack of public transit, our unaffordability crisis, our whatever you listen. They keep building these buildings in Brickell. Let me tell you right now, one day, probably sooner than later, someone's going to flush the toilet and nothing's going to happen, because that shit is literally going to have no place to go, because the pipes underneath us aren't getting any bigger and they aren't getting any younger, and the infrastructure is going to fail sooner than later. Okay. And we this growth is unsustainable for every reason, socially, economically, infrastructurally. Forget climate change and sea level rise. We are going to sink into the bay under the weight of our own incompetence and corruption and hubris. And I don't know how to stop these trends. I mean, they've been promising more affordable housing for as long as we've been alive. They've been promising, effective public transit for as long as we've been alive. They've been promising, infrastructure projects. For all we get is a $1 billion signature bridge. Who needs it? We got bridges collapsing, we got buildings collapsing. We need to reinforce the shit we've got, not build big, dumb, pretty things. We need to be practical, and we need to service the people who service this community. I don't know what to do about it. It seems irreversible. What's going to happen is a great big fat fucking recession is what's going to happen. We've subsisted on boom and bust cycles in this community since the beginning, because we have no indigenous industry here. We only sell the sunshine. We only sell the Florida dream. What does Carl Hyacin say? All we produce in Florida is oranges and guns. Like, those are our industries, And so people come here to buy their second home, their third home, their fourth home, or they come here to retire. The retirees can't even afford it anymore. These are, I will say, as sinister and dark as shit is, these are very interesting times. We are living history right now.
Wow. Do you think better leadership could change that?
I think better leadership could improve that. I do, but I think better leadership also means trying to not eliminate, but at least give the oligarchs, if you will, their appropriate, proportionate place in the process. I'm not an eat the rich guy. I mean, if you work for it and you earn it, God bless. But you worked for it and you earned it in a country that gave you certain opportunities and offered you certain stability and services and an economy that was robust and allowed you to create and succeed. So you have to give back. You have to do that. Listen, so I was making fun of people who vote to deport themselves and their family. I vote to raise my taxes. I do. I vote for people who I know are going to raise my taxes. Are they going to waste more money? Damn right. Are they going to use some of that money or more of it then for good, for services that I think are important? Because I believe in community, because I believe in the idea that if more people are educated and smarter, then I want to increase voter turnout. Let's get more people in for, like Michael Hepburn was talking about, Civics 101, more people who know what they're talking about, what they're doing, and who the candidates are and what the issues are. Do I think educating more kids so that my kids grow up in a place with better informed, more, better educated people? Yes, I do. So I believe in a robust public school system. I'm a product of the Miami-Dade County, or what was then just the DCPS, the Dade County public school system when I started. So these are things that we do, not because it's, well, that's for, I'm going to do for my kid, not for your kid. No, we're doing it for our kids. We're doing it for our community and for our country. So we pay back into the system that helped us earn what it is that we're earning. And everybody needs to pay their fair share. It doesn't make any sense that Bill Gates's secretary pays a higher percentage of her paycheck, meaning she works for more months out of the year than Bill Gates does, percentage-wise. That doesn't make, for the government, that doesn't make any sense. Everybody, if you become a billionaire in this country, in this economy, just pay your fair share. Do your part. Give back to allow the next generation of billionaires to have their opportunity to maybe do what you did. Otherwise, if you keep pulling up that ladder behind you, whether it's immigrants who vote against immigrants, or it's rich people who are trying to effectively abuse poor people, into the idea that we can spend $450 million a year on Alligator Alcatraz and build that shit in 8 days, but we can't build affordable housing, but we can't afford SNAP or Medicaid or Medicare, which is a fraction of the price, by the way, if you're thinking there's only 5,000 beds in Alligator Alcatraz for $450 million a year. It's just a question of priorities. This is our problem. We elect leaders, so-called leaders, politicians, with perverse incentives and warped priorities. They measure progress by the number of construction cranes they can count on the horizon, or the amount of millions or billions of dollars of our tax dollars that they can gift to millionaire and billionaire developers and sports team owners.
But this is all by design, right? Let's call a spade a spade. This is all by design, Billy. Because there's
something I would never say, Janae. I don't care who I'm talking about. I would never tweet it, just so you know. So sometimes I do self-censor or pull plug. So you know.
I mean, because with everything that you're saying, it's really by design. Because how could you see that? How could you know that? How can you make so much money and still push forward wanting to take away from people? Because it's like, to me, you want to get rid of the lower middle class, and you just want rich people and workers.
But to what end? Like any functional, peaceful, successful society is because of its robust and large and comparatively prosperous middle class. When I say prosperous, I mean people who could feed their families with one job. People who can, who don't have to work hundreds of hours a week just to get by. Like, what are we without immigrants? What are we without a robust middle class? Like, it doesn't make, the middle class are the workers. And guess what? They're deporting all those other workers, Papa Keith. All the other, the workers out there doing the serious hard work for very low pay. And by the way, who pay their taxes? Those undocumented immigrants pay more in taxes than Elon Musk did and his companies did last year, pay more than Amazon paid in taxes last year, paid more than Tesla paid in taxes last year, or the president paid in taxes last year. Okay, those quote unquote illegals that are so illegal, by the way, that don't contribute, that are a drain on our services. Bullshit. You're gonna watch.
But I believe what people say too. I think it's something still higher. So even when you get that make America great again, and what that really means, to the core of what that means, it's like that's the mission. You understand what I'm saying? So we're appalled, and we will have these conversations where we're like, wow, this is crazy. How could they be so greedy? How could they be so this? Because they have a bigger mission that they're trying to accomplish that some of us, or a lot of us, can't wrap our heads around, and we're getting caught up in this pool of, oh, you're greedy, you're this, you're that, and they're like, yo, we're so way past that. You go ahead and talk about us being greedy. We're over here trying to wipe out a class of people so that way we can control certain narratives. It's not because we are sold on this whole America and what it's supposed to be. It's no longer what it was supposed to be, and we have to come to that.
Was it ever what it was supposed to be?
Right. And we have to come to that realization and move accordingly instead of this like American dream. Can I say something that, I mean, this may be off topic, but I just feel compelled to say it, and just what you hear, Billy, I think I'm going to get a great response for it. It's crazy how the American flag now seems so weird to me, right? It almost makes me feel uncomfortable. And I'm an American. I was born in America. I love America. My parents are from Trinidad, and I love my Trinidadian culture and roots and all that good stuff. But the American flag is almost becoming scary to me, as though I don't belong, or that American flag only represents a certain group of people in America. Like, yo, so I'm tying those two things in together because I feel like it's something so bigger that's happening right now, and we're just like, we're fighting over crumbs, and they're sitting on an island with just cakes. You know what I'm saying?
Part of me wishes they just fly the stars and bars, just so we know. You know what I mean? Like, just so because you're right. A lot of people who don't really understand what America stands for and actually do hate America and American values and Americans, what Americans are, which is all of us, have co-opted that flag. So I get exactly what you're saying. I might have said something similar to somebody just the other day, actually. And I remember the first time I used to travel when I was a kid. I was making a movie in China, and I had this jacket, my travel jacket that I always wore on the plane. And I didn't realize it was on the back, but it had a lot of patches, and it had a big American flag patch on the back. In 91, the war started, the first Gulf War, George Bush the first. It started, King George the first of America. And actually, yes, King George the second. His son would be the third. And then I was getting on a plane, and the war had just broken out. We were going back to the United States from China. And someone said to me, hey, you might want to take that jacket off. And I'm 13-year-old American kid going, America's the greatest country in the world. Everybody loves America. What the fuck are you? And you're like, oh, because that American flag on your back. And I was like, what are you talking about? Everybody loves it, And then so that was my first like loss of innocence moment as a young American traveling abroad. Someone going like, well, America just started a war, and not a lot of the other countries in the world, you might not know this, kid, but there are other countries in the world are not necessarily down with this war. And so like you might not, so ever since then, I've always had this weird kind of like about like, how do other people feel about us, and how are, and are we, because we are out there in the world, we're as close as some people get to Americans. They don't, and they watch our over here and they go, what the is going on with you guys over there? Like it's wild that, when, as the world shrinks, you have friends in other places. But Janae made an interesting point a minute ago about like, was it ever that great? There was a time in which I think we at least pretended it was, or we tried to pretend like we were trying. That's what I said before. It's like Tinkerbell.
What decade was that though?
Well,
the 90s?
Like, listen, maybe? No, even more. What I'm saying is that like it's an idea, it's an experiment, and as long as there's some people acting in good faith and trying to make it better, it maybe can get there. Remember the phrase, in order to form a more perfect union. It was not a perfect union. It was, and I got to tell you, if you told those old rich white slave owners that this stupid idea of theirs was going to last 250 years, they would have given themselves a nice pat on the back. In no small part because life expectancy was 27 years probably back then, because this is pre-vaccines and pre-shit that made us healthier and live longer, like happiness and central AC and DDT to kill the mosquitoes and all that, that they don't have at Alligator Alcatraz necessarily. But as long as we sort of said, like, we want to try to do better, as long as we portrayed to the world or projected to the world that democracy matters, that human rights matter, it turns out that even the illusion made a big difference in the world, not only in our perception of the world, but in terms of how we strengthened, humanity and human rights and democracy around the world, just pretending that we were as good as we thought that we were, said that we were. Now we're not even doing that anymore. And that's the crazy, because you're right. There are people in this country who've never experienced the time necessarily when they would have called America great, but it's a great idea. And so as long as we keep saying, like, it's a great idea, let's keep working to make it a better idea, a more perfect union, there's somewhere to go with that. There's somewhere you could be proud of your flag. I think that's part of and this is the other thing to remember. Blind loyalty is not love of country. Conformity is not love of country. Trying to form a more perfect union, as RFK once said, the good one. Hang a lantern on your problems. Like, call it out. Say, like, this is where Jeff Ross, the comedian, we only roast the ones we love. If we didn't give a shit about America, we wouldn't be here talking about it or how to make it better. We would have given up. We would have jumped on a boat and gone to another country. We're here fighting in our own way through our First Amendments, through the legal constitutional way, because we love it. We're not giving up. We're not saying, okay, this guy's the last president we ever want to have. Whoa, 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 whoa. That's not America. That's not what our founding fathers, if you want to call them that, stood for or meant to happen. George Washington, the first president of the United States, they told him, we want you to stay. We don't want you to go. We don't give a shit about this 2-term, whatever this thing is. And he said, you guys are fucking this up out of the gate. He's like, if we don't stick to this thing that we just signed 8 years ago, what are we doing here? We just escaped the monarchy. You want another King George? He goes, peace, I'm out. Like, that's what America is. Okay, was he a rich white guy and a slave owner? Absolutely. Absolutely. But there was an idea, Janae, that was, that we could be better, that we could do better. And now the people who have given up on that are the people who are like I said, like, turning their back on the ideals that not only this country was founded on, but that made it as great as it could be for while it was as great as it could be. And they're the ones who have given up on this country, and they're the ones who wrap themselves in the flag, violating the flag code, by the way. Wear underwear with the flag on it, or drag the flag along the ground or in the back of a boat or a truck. Like, that's disrespect. Like, it's just, guys, it's just disrespectful.
Well, Billy, you got the record for our longest podcast.
I know.
Without tequila.
Would you come back, Billy? And some people in the comments were saying it, like, they loved your perspective and your take. We would love to have you back on the show to talk about other topics, if you would be so kind, because this was really good.
I will only do it if we are in person, and I will bring the tequila.
That's a deal.
Can we do that? And the pie. I'll bring the key lime pie too.
Yes, that's a deal. That's a deal. We plan on doing, we always do a live show where we're all together. So, yeah, that's a deal.
I love this.
Please come back.
I love this. I love talking with you guys. This was great.
Thank you,
That
Billy.
means a lot coming from you, especially someone who's built a platform that I've watched over the years, from your documentaries to your podcast to social. So that means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Billy, man, stay blessed, my brother. Continue to fight. Thank you for punching up. Right, up. and
Right
not
now,
down.
right now, it looks like I'm punching you guys though. From where
I
from
know.
where I am on the, I just
All right, brother. Have a great one. Thank you so much, King.
thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah. Man, that was great.
Yeah, it was.
Yo, like he was that was like a class like and that's crazy. We went from Dr. Gallen going us, giving us information on education to Billy Corben breaking down all this stuff with City of Miami. And I like when people do that for our audience because that's a part of like what we want to be able to do and have like open, honest conversations. And even too, like I really appreciate him, even some of the questions that maybe weren't as flowery and, like my
Yeah.
questions about the black community. I'm glad he like took it, like he was honest about it and open, and it wasn't like a how dare you ask me this. Like it was a vibe.
And I kind of appreciated the fact that he didn't tear anybody's head off. He just kind of said what he had to say, but he didn't try to like use our platform as an opportunity to go after anybody or to attack anybody. I think he really represented. He said what was on his mind. He answered all of our questions. Your question, which I thought would have been a kind of tough one for him, I think he took it head on when you asked him about him going after some of our black officials, and he had a good point that I actually agree
Yeah,
with. You know what I mean?
totally agree with. I think I personally experienced that with some of my recent coverage of Miami Gardens, and it was kind of like a not it wasn't a race thing, but a culture thing. Is like you're from here, how dare you say anything less than great about what's going on in Miami Gardens. And it's like, well, I am also too somebody from here and want to tell the truth to my community and to my audience. Like, why wouldn't I talk about this?
Yeah, and it goes back to
That's-
even some of the points that we talk about. People in some of these positions, they get spoiled. They get, so used to everybody kissing their butt for everything that they feel like, you can't say anything about them, or if you do it, everything has to be positive and, and stuff like that. And it's like, you have to be open to taking criticism. I'm not saying nobody has to disrespect you. You know what I mean? I'm not into that. But even in my campaign, I had a situation where somebody was like trying to press me, and I took it. Even though I knew it was bullshit. I know they were sent to me. I know they already supported somebody else, and they were just kind of like jabbing me. But like I said, and when we talked, and I was able to talk about my run in the first episode in series 3, it's like once you enter that arena, when you decide, what I'm saying, to go in that arena, these are the things that come with it. So you shouldn't be easily offended if you are a public official. It literally says public.
that
so,
part.
so with that, you got to be
That
open to public opinion, public scrutiny, public love, public hate. You know what I'm saying? And that's something I had to wrap my head around, and moving forward, and still, because I think it's worth it to do right for the people if that's what you
no.
in it to do.
And then here's the thing, and I want to give a shout out. I had and I hope she's okay with me sharing this, but I had a conversation with Vanessa Woodard Byers, and she's not only has blog in Black Miami, but she's been working in government and policy and campaigns for decades. Like she's a OG in this market, and
Mhm.
she said something to me today that really really touched me. And she said something to the effect of like, if you're not making them mad, then you're not doing your job. Like you're not doing the right thing. She's like, keep speaking truth to power, keep sharing the information with your audience. She was like, if you're not making them mad, then there's a problem there. And I was
Wow.
like, I said, I received that. I appreciate that. And even to Billy's point, if he wasn't speaking some truth, if he wasn't speaking truth to power, they wouldn't be upset. And it's almost like, it's like, well, what are you doing? And why aren't you more transparent? Why do you have a problem with this? And I think just as people, I feel like people are slowly waking up civically and when it comes to what's going on, because it's such a dumpster fire and we're really feeling it. Well, they're really feeling it. Black people, we okay. We don't been here before. But
Right.
I feel like you need to keep mind of who gets so bent out of shape when somebody says something that's truthful, but maybe doesn't paint them in the best picture. Or if they're questioning them and they feel like, how dare you? That's when that monarchy, oligarch, king, queen energy is in effect. And I feel like too, when he was talking about blind loyalty, and I feel like now me and you can have this conversation, like we family here.
Right.
The blind Trump doesn't is not the only elected official that has blind loyalty. We do it in our communities too.
Yep.
We vote for people for decades just because they gave us a book bag, just because they, maybe your child came through a summer camp that they did once. Like, we don't ever look at the real issues or policies on are they really making my life better? Like, are they really doing the job that I elected them to do? We let people off so easy in our society on every level. And a lot of us need to check ourselves and need to say, from my city council, from dog catcher to president, city council to state attorney. Am I a blind loyalist to this elected official? Do I actually hold them accountable? Do I actually know what they're doing with the money, my taxes, that the job that I elected them to do? Am I a blind loyalist to them? Am I a blind follower to them just because they say something that make me feel good, but are they actually doing a good job? He brought up a couple of names and certain things. I was just like, you know what? This person has been there for a million years. What are they doing? Why do they
Right.
have this? Like, we need to check that. And we need to check that on even some of our, nonprofits that get funded from government. That are they doing the job? Like, we blindly follow a lot of stuff that I don't think we be checking on as much as we should.
And we
For people who say they
dispel
working for us.
our youth. That's another
Mm,
issue. We get mad at them for not being involved, but we don't involve them. You know what I mean?
exactly.
And that's to me another issue. So when you look at, like a Hepburn, for instance, since we've been talking about him tonight, who running for that mayor seat in the city of Miami, a person may look at him and be like, "Oh, what are you gonna do?" Or or may just discriminate against him because you feel that an older person or a person that has a certain last name or a person that's been there doing it for a long time is going to serve you better just based off of a name, to your point, Janae, or just based on they've been there for how many years. And I don't know what the fear is about, giving younger people an opportunity to run and to get involved. You guys are scaring a lot of good people away. You
Mm.
guys are running people off by not giving them a chance. You know what I'm saying? And so when you end up with a commissioner who's been there for 40 years and who is taking control, who's not going to change, who's not going to, then
Why
this is
you
what
want the
you,
job that long? What are you do? What are you really doing?
well, they wouldn't want that job if there weren't benefits.
Here's the tea, and I don't like to give all my sources away, but this is actually elected official brought this up to me, and they
Mm.
said you should do a story on people's network on what they came in with and what they leave with. I said, oh God.
Oh no, that's a fact.
And
That's
so
a
to your
fact.
point of why you want that job so long, what
Mm.
are you doing?
Yeah.
You're clearly stealing something. You're doing something. You're mismanaging. You're keeping something that you're not supposed to do.
And my thing is like, listen, in anything you're gonna do, I don't expect anybody to be perfect. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not gonna judge superly, but like when you do that and then you don't do your job, then it's really a problem. Like, do your job. Do
'Cause I
your
think,
job.
and I ain't no way I'm ever condoning anything legal, but here's the tea. If you was doing your job and you kept a little something on the side, I wouldn't even notice. How about that? What you
That's
were
what I'm trying to
doing.
tell
You
you.
know what I'm saying? Like, you can't be I can't have illegal campers in my neighbor's backyard and mattresses on the side of the street and big illegal dumping, illegal parking, all these low quality of life, horrible streets, no good social services, crime, all this stuff. I can't have all of that and you taking money and you getting fat. Like, I get it can't be both of those things. It can't be both of those things.
Yeah. I mean, we could dive so much deeper into that. That could be a whole nother
I know. Look at Billy
episode.
don't rile us.
I know. We didn't even talk like this.
I know, but here's the thing: what I will give him, and I respect him, and I also feel like this gives me like Miami energy in the sense of, like you said, he could have really went in on certain elected officials, but I feel like I respect the fact that I feel like it was kind of like a read in the room, like we still engage with certain people, so to go in and have us sitting here almost like condoning a white man ripping apart, black elected officials,
I
like it
know
would
when he
made us
called
look.
out Chevron, I was like,
I said,
but
"Oh
but
shit."
again, to your point, he didn't call him out in a bad way, and then he even
Mhm.
even
Said that
complimented him and
like
said,
legislatively, like he said,
yeah,
he gets
and
it
gave him
right.
his
So
props.
it was fair, but put it to that point though, that means that because I've watched some of his podcasts, if you're really, really listening to him, it's just he's calling out things that he feels like isn't fair or is not in the best interest of the community or the people that voted them. It's not a indictment on you personally, and that like I hate you forever. I'm just trying to do this personal attack against you. Like it was fair in his assessment. Like I said, even though I still even cringe with him talking about Andrew Gillum, but he had his point was valid. It was like that could have been something that could have held you being blackmailed by somebody because you had this secret or whatever.
Right.
And he's like,
And
that
then,
is a point on your character. But I'm not saying this because you're a black man or a gay man. I'm saying this
right.
because you were supposed to be an elected official who to represent me and as a governor.
And then he also mentioned many people that he did support, and then they got into office, and then he didn't agree with certain things, and then he started attacking them. So it does even show like that transparency of like, yeah, at one time I was supporting this person as, or endorse this person or, or try to get this person elected. And then they did something to disappoint me. So I was like, hey, so it's not that blind loyalty, like, oh, no matter what you do, I'm just going to support you. I'm just going to, he says again, he's going to call them out.
Be fair. And honestly, I feel like even the word attacking feels a little bit harsh. It's like I'm going to be critical, I'm going to hold you accountable, and
There
I'm
you
going to
go.
call out what you're doing. I'm punching up because you're in a power position and it affects our everyday lives. So I think that's even too like how we view a Billy Corben or a Roland Martin or now Down Lemon, like certain people, a Janae or a Papa Keith. It's like we're not attacking you. We see some bullshit, and as people who have platforms, this is a way for our community to know what's going on. Like if we don't call it out, the sister Linda who got to work every day, but could turn on YouTube and even catch the replay, and now she's learning what's going on in the city of Miami. If we're not here and she don't have the ability to go there, like like to a city council meeting, how was she ever supposed to be informed? Like that's to me the role of the fifth estate, and so it's
And
not
you're a
attacking.
public,
That's why we
keyword
need to have
public
our workshop. We need to start
servant.
teaching the people how to, because a lot of this stuff is public record too. I just got the time to dig through stuff. But if you want to dig too, you can.
Yep.
It's all, like you said, public. What you do in the public. It's not your child. You're
Yeah.
right. Because I don't got mad. That don't piss me
Cut.
off.
It's a wrap. Derica, where you
I know
at?
I'm about to say something.
Derica, save us.
I
Get us
thought of
out of here,
something I was not to
Derica.
say.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for, especially if you've been there from the beginning. We're going on like 2.5 hours basically. So thank you
And the
to our
numbers have been
loyal,
consistent.
yeah,
Thank y'all.
your family, my family. Let me shout out some people in the comments really, really quick before we end the show. Shout out to I don't want to pronounce the name wrong, but Kawanakam,
Kawana,
um, your auntie
Kim.
Vanessa.
Yeah,
Shout out to Lori. Shout out to
that's my auntie
Crystal,
Lori.
Kiara, Auntie Lori, Miss Claudette. Big ups to you, of
That's
course,
my auntie
Tantas.
Claudette too.
Love it, love it. I saw Faith pop up in here. She's a
Yeah,
loyalist.
Faith.
Shout
Love
out to you,
her.
Faith. Street Minister Anthony Durden. So many people, and a lot of you who've been watching and just choose not to comment at this time.
Yes.
We appreciate
Isis,
you.
Crystal. I saw
Yeah.
my mom was in there. Licinia.
Yeah, we thank you. We
Constance.
appreciate you. All right. Next episode, we have another really, really good one for you.
Ooh. Billy
Yeah,
don't tee it us up because he don't.
yeah. We actually, we have a really, really good one for you. If you want to understand, I'll give you this hint or this much. If you want to understand the direction the Florida Democratic Party is going in, if you want to understand as a Democrat what to look forward to, we're going to peel those things back with a person who can really help deliver a lot of those questions and answers, So
That part. That part. And
that
y'all
part.
make sure y'all replay gang, watch. Also to subscribe. We're in the process of trying to get our page monetized on YouTube. So please like, subscribe, share this with someone. The first tier of monetization on YouTube is 300 subscribers. So that's our first goal. So just hit it, like it, share it. Also, too, if you got other email accounts, because Gmail lets you do it, go like from them other ones. I got like 5 YouTube accounts, so go like from all of them. Help us out. Also, too, watching live when you like, share, and comment, that helps us in the algorithm. Also, to a replay, and views. So definitely do those things to help us, build up our audience.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Alden. Love you more, Faith. We out of here. Thank you to our show producer, Derica. She's amazing. She's a family
Hey,
member. She's awesome. The show will
love
be
you, baby
without
Derica.
her. Till next week. Thank you.
Bye, y'all. Love y'all.
Love y'all.